not binded to like it's in namespace wise. And as I said, and the PVC is it's like a persistence volume claim. It like user or someone has to be asked for like storage purpose, and they has to pass inside the YAML file. It's like according to requirement. If it is need 1 GB or 2 GB, has to require for that persistent volume. And yeah, and yeah, then we had to say yeah, I think this is PV and PVC.
Okay. What is service account?
Service account is basically made like we have to create service account to whenever it has to deployment time. So we have to create a separate service account for the deployment purpose. So no need to make any collage or like any like that kind of things to happen while you deploying any pod or anything. So once your deployment completely done, so we have to create a separate service account for to deploy our final production into the like final source code into the production.
What is ingress and ingress resource?
Yeah, like ingress is it's like it's one of the like resource we didn't find in Kubernetes cluster, and it we used to like route our traffic to the like in path based as well as in like host based like path based as you pass the path like in /way, and you can go for some domain name with the help of host name you can route our traffic. And even it's give the access for HTTP and HTTPSS. And even without ingress controller, ingress is not work. It's like it's totally depends upon the ingress controller. Ingress controller is the main authentication, means it's just read the all the rules of our ingress, and it create configure the proxy. We have a Nginx controller, and we have a HP proxy controller, and we have a GCP proxy. So according to that, it has to work in the within the our Kubernetes cluster. So it used to distribute our load to the different microservices because, as I said, if we go for a load balancer, it will be a little costly because for every services we need to create a load balancer. So it's highly impossible. It's make cost for us. So instead of that, we can go for ingress controller that has a single ingress controller is enough for us to distribute our load to the multiple microservices.
So what is PDB?
PDB.
PDB.
I'm not getting Lakshman sir. PDB.
Pod disruption budget.
Like as I thought, it used to like when you were having a load means like when you were getting a like heavy kind of load, if you're having a large amount of data and need to maintain that thing, so sometimes my pod maybe have like crash, and it may get like my application maybe get go for downtime. So instead of that, we had to go for the pod distribution to distribute our load to the different pods. uh, Basically, we can. I think we can go for distribute our load to the multiple parts to make our applications high level.
Amrita?
Yes.
What is PDB?
PDB is nothing but so we wanted to drain the nodes. So basically, the nodes having some pods, so that has to distribute to other nodes. So to drain that, so we'll be using the pod distribution budget.
It is not to drain the nodes actually. So it is like a pod disruption budget is like a in some cases like node draining and scaling down the pod nodes. So the like in that cases the pod should be voluntarily down. So in that cases like a minimum amount of like a minimum set of pod should be always available. So to prevent the like application down. Okay.
Hmm.
So at any cost, like at any time, so the minimum amount of pods should be always be available. Okay. So means pod disruption budget is at any point of time minimum this much of amount of pods only it should drain. Okay.
Okay.
What are the main components of Kubernetes?
Main components like a API server and Kube etcd and control manager. It is a part of master server, master node, and we have worker node. In worker node we have a Kube proxy and container runtime pod, and these many components.
What is kubelet? What it
Uh,
is doing?
kubelet will be responsible to be pods will be always running. So if it is the pod is get it's not running, so it will be interacted with the API server, so it will make sure that the pods are running.
What is replica sets?
Replica set means how much pod should be running, so that it will be taking care of that with replica set. So in the deployment file, we will be mentioning that replicas. So based on that, so it is running or not, the replica set will be taken care. It's like a controller. It will manage so how many replicas mentioned as decide it is running or not.
Hmm. What is the RBAC?
Rollback access control, like basically we wanted to restrict the access, so we have roles and role bindings, so we wanted to cluster level we have to restrict the access. So do with the namespace based, so we have to restrict access. So based on that rollback access only will be restricting the things in the Kubernetes. So for that we'll be going with the rollback access control.
What is taints and tolerations?
Yeah, so we wanted to taint the nodes, so should not any pod should not be updated to the particular node. So for that time, the node will be updated as taint, so that no pods will be updated there. So if still we wanted to update, so we have to mention as a toleration in the pod, so that it will be allowed to keep the to deploy the pod into the particular node. So basically, the taint is used to up if we wanted to upgrade or upgrade the nodes. So we wanted to not allowing the pods to be deployed in my particular node. So that time we'll use taints.
Hello. Okay. So, okay, share your screen, Amrita, and write on deployment. Okay, including that HP also you need to be right. Okay. ಬರುತ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ?
ಆ ಡಿಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಬಟ್ ಎಚ್ ಪಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು.
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಡಿಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸರ್ವೀಸಸ್ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಇವತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ ಎಚ್ ಪಿ ಎ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ.
Okay. Okay, tell me, so what do you mean by startup group, liveness, and readiness group?
So liveness is nothing but, so we if we it will look for uh, the pod is ready to receive the signal. If it is ready, then it will look for a healthy nodes, healthy. So then it will go for a readiness. Lunas probe is readiness probe is success. Then it will go for a Lunas. Lunas will be checking for the health of the pod, so that if the readiness probe is ready to receive the signals, ready to receive the traffic, then it will look for it is still healthy or not. That then it will go for a Levinas probe.
Okay. Think like you had deployed one application into the Kubernetes cluster. Okay.
Mm.
Now you are getting a 404 unauthorized error. So how you are going to troubleshoot?
404 error. Maybe
Yeah.
that is we don't have. It is deployed in a cluster IP. It is within the inside the cluster only. We may be accessing. That is one issue.
So we are going to expose using the ingress, right? So then,
Mm.
so what is you are not going to directly exposing the parts outside, right? You are
Yes.
using cluster IP using Nginx controller. We are going to expose.
Yes.
Then how we are going to troubleshoot?
The pod that we were mentioning in the in the ingress controller, we will be mentioning the slash bar, or it should route to the particular uh, pod, right? For that time we'll be mentioning, like example, I will be mentioning for payment app slash payment. That is not correct. Maybe that is maybe causing.
Okay, one is correct. In the route in the ingress controller, I mean ingress resource, you are not specified the correct path. Next,
And, we have restricted with any the particular pod we have restricted, means with the rollback access.
okay. So how to check means like take a note like so first you need to check if it is at like application level or service level. Okay, one
Okay.
is service is not mapping correctly. Okay,
Mm, mm,
traffic is not routed to right backend. So like in the ingress resource you will write on a backend service. I showed you one time, right? So filter
okay.
workbook. So front end is working, but in the back end you return the you mismatch the route of that particular traffic. Okay, it is not going to hit your particular microservice. Then you are getting a 404 error. Okay, so on the time first you need to basic troubleshooting means you need to check the status like whether the part is running or not. Okay, then you need to check the logs of the parts. So it will show you like when you hit that HTTP by using that particular part path. So it will print you the live logs. Okay, so it will throw you an error like 404. Why it is throwing 404? Whether it is not able to authenticate your backend service, correct? Maybe your secrets and config mapper not properly configured. Maybe your username and the password of your DB may be misconfigured. Okay, then you can check with the service configuration. In the service, you mentioned like 80 or 70, but in the ingress, you put it like something different.
Mm,
Okay, so then also you will get a 404 error. Okay,
mm,
then if it is also if everything is working, then if you are not exposed to it is not working, then you need to test by using the port forward method. You need to expose that only that part whether we are going to accessible or not. Okay, so in this way we can troubleshoot. Okay,
yeah, mm,
then even though if it is still getting a 404 error, then again in the ingress resource, you mention the class name, correct? So Nginx ingress controller, you will deploy. So while writing the ingress resource, you may maybe typo mistake. If you given the name of the ingress Nginx controller is different, then where exactly it should route? It will don't know, right? We
yes.
need to specify the class name. So use this class or use this ALB to route the traffic. If you are not specified that, you will get 404 error. Okay. Okay. What do you mean by role binding?
that basically we wanted to give the access for in the cluster level and in the namespace level. So roles means like we are giving the policies like the what access they need. Role binding means with that, so who can access the particular services. So basically we are using for RBAC for restricting the access in Kubernetes.
Okay, so what do you mean by service account in Kubernetes?
To expose our application to outside the world with the containerized application we will be deploying, so that to expose to the world or inside we can able to access, for that time we'll be using with a service only we can uh, access or expose the applications. For that we'll use service.
Okay, so take an example. You integrated your EKS with your Jenkins. Okay,
Hmm.
so in the service account, you mentioned something. Okay, now you are trying to deploy your service deployment, config map secrets in one file. Okay,
Hmm.
so deployment is configuring, service is configuring. For HPA and config map, it is throwing some error, forbidden error. So what may be the cause?
Mm, that replica set we have mentioned that pods will be running, right?
Hello.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, I will explain. See, when you are not specified any rules to the service account, I will show you the code. Yeah, front end.
Sir, you can explain a folder structure also, sir.
Okay. So this is service account I'm creating for namespace called MD2I AM plus TST. Okay. So I'm just creating a service account. So it will give some secrets to establish a connection between your AKS and your Azure DevOps. So when you run that command while applying the service account, so some commands will be there. So when you run that secrets, it will give you some PEM key. Okay. So by using that PEM key, it will able to communicate your Azure DevOps with your AKS. So what I written in the I will create a service account. Okay. For that service account, I defined a role here. See, what are the resources I included? Deployment, pods, service. What I am explaining here is like get, list, watch, create, delete, patch, or update. Only this permission will be allocated to that service account. Okay. When I deployed a pod or deployment through using that service account, only this will deployed into your cluster. Do I mention anything like config map secrets?
No.
No.
Mm.
That's why it is throwing in a forbidden error. Okay. It is a role. Here I'm role
Mm.
binding means I am attaching this role to this role binding. Okay. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಸೊ ರೋಲ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಎ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಸೊ ರೋಲ್ ಬೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ವಿಚ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ರೂಲ್ ಶುಡ್ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಸೊ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ರೋಲ್ ಬೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್
Yes.
ಇದನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. EKS ಇದೆ ತಾನೇ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ?
Yes, we have.
You can try it once, okay? ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿಲ್ವಾ? ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ?
Yes, we got it.
Understood, sir.
So role is like job description, and then role binding is hiring someone for that job, like that.
Yes, role is nothing but a permission, okay? So you will create a policy. If you return a policy, will it applicate to the user? No. You should add particular policy to the particular user. Then only that IAM will work, correct? Just I'm telling a comparison. Role is nothing but a policy. Role binding is nothing but a user. Okay. Hello.
Yes, Sandeep, got it.
See, tell me yes or no. So I'm not getting like whether you're understanding or not.
Yeah, Sandeep, understood.
Only two people are talking in the every Q&A, like Rohit, Sagar, Amrut, others.
No, sir, we understand.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, role is nothing but
Then and then cluster role and then cluster role binding.
cluster role is nothing but a resource level. So suppose if I want to allow some user to access particular namespace, okay, then I will go with the cluster role. Same thing you can add it in a IAM roles as well. Okay. If you are using AKS server, EKS in your AWS, then I want to make sure that user need to be accessed that particular namespace. Okay, in the IAM also we can do it, but that is very complex. So I will go with a cluster role. Okay, cluster role nothing but a permission given to a user. What are the namespace he can list, he can deploy all the details, we can add it in the cluster role. Same way, role and role binding is specific for your namespace. What are the things he can do with that namespace? Whether can I give the permission to deploy any pods into that particular namespace? I can give access to a particular user by using the role and role binding. The same thing here, my user is service account. Service account is nothing but a role. Think like I am in AWS a role. Okay, role is what it role will comes when you communicate between a two resources. Role comes to the picture, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
For
Sandeep.
that role, we will add a policy. Policy is nothing but a permission. What are the permission we will give that role? Whether he can deploy, whether he can add, he can list the parts, he can add deployments, he can add config map. Those policies will attach that role. Role is nothing but here service account, because it is establishing connection between your Azure DevOps and your AKS. So for that, I am writing a policy and attaching a policy to the particular user. Okay. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ? ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಹೇಳಿ.
ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು Sandeep.
ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು.
Now you got some idea, right?
Sandeep, we have role binding and cluster level only, right? So still why we want service account?
Service account is when you are establishing a connection. Azure DevOps ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಪ್ಲಗಿನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಓಕೆನಾ? Azure DevOps ಅಲ್ಲಿ 3 ways ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಒಂದು ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಇಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಇಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಯೂಶಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಈಗ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಪೈಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಬ್ಬನ ಯಾರೋ YAML ಫೈಲಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಬರ್ದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ರನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬರ್ತಾನೆ. ಮಿಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಇದ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಪೈಪ್ಲೈನ್ ರನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ. ಸೊ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಓನ್ಲಿ ಡೆಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್, ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ನಾನು ಇಡಲ್ಲ. ಬೇಡ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀನು ಇಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಇಡ್ಬೋದು, ಇಡದೇನೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಈಗ ನೀವು ಪ್ಲಗಿನ್ ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನೀವು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ಲಗಿನ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದ್ರದ್ದೊಂದು ಕ್ರೆಡೆನ್ಶಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಅಜೂರ್ ಡೆವಾಪ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಈ ಒಂದು ಪೈಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಇಂದ ನನಗೆ ಡೆಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಪಾಡ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೈಂಡಲ್ ಪಾಡ್ ಅಂತ ಬರೀತೀರಾ, ಅದು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು ನನಗೆ. ದಟ್ ನೋ ಯೂಸ್ ಇನ್ ಅವರ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ದ ಪಾಡ್. ಐ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಗೋ ವಿತ್ ಡೆಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಓಕೆ, and also you can attach some policies. Suppose if you are running with a non-root user, so it should not deploy to any pods into our cluster. ಅದನ್ನು ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ, ಅದು ಯಾವ ಥರ ಎರರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
No, sir.
No, Sandeep. No.
Now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Not found. So ನಾವು ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಓಕೆನಾ? ಸೊ ಇಫ್ someone is running our pod as a root user, so our network policy will not allow that deployment to deploy into your EKS cluster. So where is the error?
ಸೊ RBAC ಕೂಡ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಿವಿಲೇಜ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್
ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ರಿಟ್ರೀವ್ ಫೋರ್ಬಿಡನ್ ರೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿದೆ, ನಾನು ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ಬಿಡಿ, ಅದೇನು ಎರರ್ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಓಕೆನಾ? So usually in the companies, they are not going to allow you to run any pod as a root user, okay? ನೀವೇ ಆಗಲಿ, when you join to the company, if you are written a root user, it is not going to work out. Hello?
Yes, Sandeep.
Understood, right? So you need, that's why I always ask some questions, right? In the Docker container, how we are going to secure your Docker container or pod. So every time you will tell them with the root user, you are not, you are giving, if your root user means if it is something, some attack happen to your application, so he has some more privileges, right? If you are running your container as a root user. So that's why we will make sure, so while installing some packages, we will run it as a root user, then we will switch to non-root user. Okay, then we will create a Docker container and push it. While deploying also in the pod, we will return non-root user as a true and drop security context. In the security context, we will drop the privileges, Linux privileges, okay, true also. Okay. Yeah, complicate ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸೈಲೆಂಟ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಈಗ.
No, Sandeep.
No, no, not.
ನಾ ಹೇಳಿದ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ you
Yes.
got an idea, right?
Yes,
They may ask you in such a way that, like, so what are the errors you get while working? Okay, you can tell them like forbidden error. When I'm using EKS with our Azure DevOps, when I defined a role and role binding and service account. So when I try to deploy the secrets in the config map, we are getting the forbidden error. So then we come to know that, so when while checking in the service account, we are not mentioned any role for that service account. So on that time, so I resolve again, I return a role and role binding for that service account. Then I redeploy. This is the one thing. Okay. And another thing, it's like when initially some new developer join, a new joinee or new fresher came joined to the DevOps team. So when she deployed as a root user, so on that time we are getting some errors because of the network policy we return. If any deployments go through root user, we are restricted using the network policy. Okay, that is CNI policy or this policy we will return, but that will be taken care by the Kubernetes admin. Okay, and apart from this error, so how we are going to troubleshoot means so when sometimes we get a 404 error, so on that time I have worked like we check the parts, so whatever I told you, right, the troubleshooting method, you can explain that. Okay,
Okay, sir.
they are not going to directly, they are not going to ask what you mean by load balancer, what do you mean by node port, these type questions they will not ask you, but they ask you what are the issues you may encounter while working in a Kubernetes. Okay, anyway, image pullback, crash loop backup error, and 404. Okay, forbidden, that's what I showed you, right? Forbidden and this policy, you can explain these things. Okay, understood?
Yeah, Sandeep.
Coming to the next, so
Sandeep, you told like today we discuss about Helm chart. So you're
yeah,
showing
yeah,
like
yeah, actually he joined event of other meetings. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
I
We
will
need
ask him to show.
Helm.
Yeah, Helm charts. We will show you like through Argo CD, but they are going to use Argo CD, so we will show you how to pass a value. See, Kubernetes. If you know writing the deployment and service, that's okay. It is like a package manager. Okay, it's you are when you are writing like I have thousands of application or hundred of application I need to bring up. Okay, so for each function or each application, if I'm going to write for deployment, service, config map, secrets, everything, it will be a huge headache for me, right? For 100 microservices. So if I use Helm charts, we can pass the image name and just pod name, image name, then automatically you can bring up 100 pods within a 5 minutes. Correct. So that is the use of Helm charts.
yeah. But service account like this also we can write it in Helm chart only. I can separate
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
We
you
can
can,
write.
you can write it. You can write it. Service account role and role binding also you can write it. It's a package manager. Whatever you are writing in a Kubernetes, same thing we can do it in a Helm charts also. Okay. Okay. Do you have any doubts? Hello. ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ
No, sir.
ಕೇಳಿ. Okay, Sagar, I don't have doubts. For others, Siddesh, Omar, Jairam,
No, sir, as of now.
Rohit.
I have no doubts, sir. I am doing hands-on. I will ask if anything comes up.
ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟು ರೋಲ್ ಬೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ನ ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ. ಓಕೆನಾ, ಬರೀ ಡೆಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಬರೀ ಡೆಪ್ಲಾಯ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನು CI/CD ಇಂದ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಆ ನೇಮ್ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ರೋಲ್ ಬೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಓನ್ಲಿ ಡೆಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ. ಓಕೆ, ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಬರ್ದು ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಏನು ಎರರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅದಾದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳಿ.
Yes, Sandeep.
We can write.
ಯಾಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ, ಯಾರು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ? ಫ್ರೈಡೆ ಅಂತನಾ ಏನು? ಹಲೋ,
No, Sandeep, ಹಾಗೇನಿಲ್ಲ Friday.
ಸೊ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಹೇಳಿ? ಈಗ ಇವತ್ತು ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ರು?
Confidence.
Okay. So when you are going to use config map, when you are going to use secrets, Nagareddy?
Config map, basically we can use to make our configurations of our application. Means to say we have to store some non-confidential data. Means if it, because as I know configuration is not for like base 64 encrypted. The data is which is stored inside the configuration that will be not secure but is not encrypted. So if you want to make that secure and make encrypted, so rather than config map, we can go for secrets. So we have to write a separate YAML for secret. In that we have to write some configuration data, confidential data or secrets like our API keys or like passwords or credentials, because it supports base 64s and the data which is we have to make it as an encrypted at rest, and even I also write some rollback access control. Means so I have to restrict the users to access my service secret file, and even we also go for a least privilege access to users and like service account.
Okay. Okay. So like in config map, we will store URLs, non-confidential data. Okay. So confidential data is nothing but like your DB connection, service name, username, okay, key vault, access, tenant ID, client ID. These things we will store it in secrets. Okay. So I will show one example. Okay. You are able to see my screen, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Sandeep.
Okay, just a simple deployment I will show you. See, we can't create secrets directly. It should be also automated. Okay, so what if I stored my SQL database username and the password? Okay, after 1 year my password has been expired. Okay, again I need to write a secrets, and again I need to edit in manual stage. What if you are not an admin, he's on leave, so on that time your password has been expired, but you don't have access to the cluster. So on that time it is very difficult, right? Your application may go down. So what we are written is like, see here, I'm just written a YAML file for my Azure DevOps. See, I will keep Azure Key Vault, whatever the passwords, will keep it in Azure Key Vault. I'm reading it from here. So I written a task, Azure Key Vault, and I establish a service connection name. So we need to establish a service connection between your Azure DevOps and your Key Vault. So that's why I create a service connection, and I am returning which Key Vault you want to refer, where you stored your secrets. So that is the name of your Key Vault name. So which secret you want to retrieve from Key Vault? So I am specifying the name of the secret. Okay. So when you use this task, so Azure token will be available entire in this pipeline. See here, I am just reading it from here. Here I retrieved the secrets of AZP token. I'm adding it to AZP underscore token variable. I'm appending that variable to, value to this variable. Okay, and I am using here in the config map. Where is that config map? Here. Okay. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ YAML ಬರೆಯಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ? Same way how we are writing YAML for deployment service, same way we are going to use it in Azure DevOps also. Okay. ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಡ. ಸೊ ಇಷ್ಟನ್ನು ಮಾತ್ರ ನೋಡಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ. ಇವಾಗ ನೀವು ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಬರಿಬಹುದು, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರಿಟ್ರೀವ್ ಸೀಕ್ರೆಟ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ AWS ಸೀಕ್ರೆಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀವು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ AWS ಸೀಕ್ರೆಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್ ಟು ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಸೀಕ್ರೆಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್. ದೆನ್ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ರಿಟ್ರೀವ್. ಓಕೆ. they will ask you how you are going to secure your secrets ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ, so we'll keep our secrets in AWS Secret Manager. In the pipeline, we are retrieving those things ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. Okay.
Yes, sir.
ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ ಆ ಪಾಸ್ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಈ ಪೈಪ್ಲೈನ್ ರನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾನ್ಫಿಗ್ ಮ್ಯಾಪ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನೋಡಿ ಈ ಬಾಟಮಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಂದರೆ ರನ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಿರೋದು URL ಈ ನಾನ್ ಕಾನ್ಫಿಡೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಇಟ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ, ಬಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಹಿಯರ್ in the agent deploy. See, I defined here. These are not confidential data, right? It is a pool name and this is the URL. So it is not a confidential data. So I can keep it in the CD itself. Just I'm replacing while running our pipeline. So only one thing I need to take it secrets, that is AZP token. Token is very important, right? So that's why I keep it in key vault. I'm retrieving from the key vault. I'm replacing while running our CD pipeline. Understood? ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಡ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಇದು ನಿಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲದ್ದು ಇದು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ವೈ ಐ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪೈಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್, ಸೊ ಯು ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ Jenkins slave machine, right? Hello?
Yes, Sandeep.
Yes, Sandeep.
ಈಗ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು run 20 application in a different slaves. So how much the cost will be?
More.
Right, more. It is too expensive to afford, correct? So what we can do is, like, we can spin up a container or spin up a pod, and we can use that pod as a slave machine. That is what I am doing here. Okay, in Azure DevOps, if I go with the Azure pipeline agents, so they will charge per job. So whatever the jobs which are running in that particular VM, so they are going to charge in the month end, correct? So we need to reduce the cost, correct? So if you are using, you can spin up a AKS cluster with 3 worker nodes, okay, with sufficient CPU and the memory. You can run 100 of pods, and you can use those pods as your agent, okay, to run your application. I can use 10 pods for Java, 10 pods for Python, 10 pods for Node.js, whatever you want, depending on our requirement, you can use it.
Okay.
So in this way also you can reduce the cost. Okay. Okay, so can anyone tell me, so what are the best practices of DevOps? Rohit?
We have to reduce the cost. That is the main basic.
How we are going to best? That is what my question. You can reduce.
Okay.
How we are going to reduce?
So by rather than using the nodes for Kubernetes, we can directly use the pods. We can buy a large server, and then, for example, if rather than using multiple servers for particular application, we can directly create large number of pods within a with a large server. Then other than that, we can deploy for testing purpose. We can buy the servers with the different buying options within the AWS or the cloud. Using the discount percentage, we can buy the servers or even the other services by AWS, and we can use that for testing purposes. Then we can, for production purpose, we can buy the large servers.
First, go with the Git.
Okay. Git, there is no cost reduction, right? Or even.
My question
Okay.
is, what is my question?
Best practices within DevOps.
Yes.
Okay.
You see, best practice is nothing but only reducing the cost.
Huh. I thought of cost perspective.
Okay, so I will tell you. Okay, so you also please prepare these questions. Okay, this may be
Okay.
out of the question. It is not a technical, so they are going to ask you how you work, so how you are make sure you are reducing the cost. So if they are asking in AWS, then you can go with EC2, Like we'll choose the ready, particular size while choosing the EC2 instance, EBS also. Like that, you can tell them why in need cost effect. I mean, how you are going to reduce the cost in AWS. If they are going to ask in a DevOps best practices in Git, okay, in SCM. So we use like standardized branching strategy. One is for main is for production code, develop is for dev and QA, feature for feature branch for new development for the feature, hotfix for urgent fixes. Okay, and also we enable branch protection rules, require PR for approvals, enforce code reviews per policies. Whenever the user raises the PR, it should automatically run the your Sonar Cube vulnerability checks before merging into the master. Okay, so these are the things we can tell in the SCM. If you come for the CI/CD tool, so we need to enable multi-stage pipeline. So we need to include unit test cases, security scans, we integrate Sonar Cube, okay, and integrate rollback mechanism in the pipeline. Okay, and use environment specific variable and secret store should be in your AWS secret manager. Okay, and you should, if it is a vulnerability is high, we need to block that build there itself. Okay, these things you can include. If you come for the infrastructure management, till now Terraform is not completed, right? Okay, Terraform ಬಂದಾಗ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಕ್ಯೂಬರ್ನೆಟಿಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ, ಲೈಕ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ use small or optimized Docker images, and we can follow multi-stage builds in the Docker file. Okay, and store images in a Azure container just as a private, automatic security scans for Docker images, and we can use readiness and the liveness probes in Kubernetes to check the application health. Okay, and you can use the pod distribution budget to avoid downtime, and we can enable horizontal scaling based on the CPU and the memory. Okay, and also we can configure resource request and the limits for every pod, so that uh, otherwise it will use entire resource of your node, correct? And also we can use monitoring and alert best practices, like use Prometheus and the Grafana. Okay, see ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದಲ್ವಾ?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to explain each and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
So at least this will cover 5 minutes of your time. Okay. ಏನೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ತಾನೇ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನ. ಈಗ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನ ಹೊಸದು ಹೇಳಿದ್ನ?
No, sir.
ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಟೆಲ್ ದಮ್. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ನೀವು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಇನ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ AWS, ನಾನು ಈ ಥರ ಲೈಕ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ನ ನಾನು ಏಜೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ರನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ವೇ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರಿಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್. EC2 ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ರೈಟ್ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಹೈ ಅವೈಲಬಿಲಿಟಿಗೆ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ಡೂ, ಸೊ ಹೈ ರೆಸಿಲೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೆನ್ಸ್, ಈವನ್ ದೋ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ಅನದರ್ ಒನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಡಿಸಾಸ್ಟರ್ ರಿಕವರಿ ಏನಂತಾರೆ ಅದು ರೆಸಿಲೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಓಕೆನಾ, ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ವರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಯಾರಾದ್ರು.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Got it, sir.
okay. So
Like we can
Yeah,
run a Docker container as also slave machine, na? So we can reduce the cost.
yeah, Docker. That's what, like in place of Docker container, I'm using pod. What if your Docker container goes down? Docker don't have ability to bring up the new container.
Yes.
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಏಜೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ಲೈನ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. What is the use of Docker container? Then that's why we are going with a pod.
Okay.
Even the pod goes down, again it will bring up, and it will attach to your slave machine, Jenkins. Again, within a 5 minutes it will come online. Suppose if you are using Docker container, so if it goes down, again it will show offline every time.
Yes.
ಇನ್ನೇನಾದರೂ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಮೀನ್ ಬೈ ರೆಸಿಲೆಂಟ್ ಅದು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಡೆವಾಪ್ಸ್ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಅದೇ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಎರರ್ಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ವೈಲ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಕ್ಯೂಬರ್ನೆಟಿಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಟೂಲಲ್ಲೂ ಏನು ಎರರ್ಸ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಇನ್ ಗಿಟ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಏನು ಎರರ್ಸ್ನು ಇದು ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂದರೆ, ಎನ್ಕೌಂಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂದರೆ, like one time someone new joining came to our team, so he deleted the branch from the remote and the local itself. Then we recover that branch using the git reflag. Okay, so merge conflict bandaga we will communicate with the team and which code need to be taken. So merge conflict na resolve ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾವ ತರ ಅಂತ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಓಕೆ,
Okay.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇವಾಗ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಡೌನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಟ್ಯಾಕಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಎನ್ ವಾರ್ ರೂಮ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಟ್. ಸೊ ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಡೆವಲಪರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಇಶ್ಯೂ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅವರ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಆರ್ from the application level. We'll troubleshoot the logs and we'll check the health of the application. These things will take care. Okay, idunu keltare what how we are going to handle if there is a downtime in your application in the production. Okay. Apart from this, almost Kubernetes ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಕವರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್, ರೋಲ್ ಬೈಂಡಿಂಗ್, config map, pod distribution budget,
That service mesh is not
service
explained.
recovery and service mesh, right? Okay. ಅದೇ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಬಿಡಿ, ಅದೊಂದು ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಮೆಶ್ ಒಂದು ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ವಾ?
He completed Kubernetes. Maybe you can only explain Sandeep.
ಮುಗಿಸಿದಾರಾ? ಓಕೆ,
Kubernetes
ನಾನೊಂದು ನಮ್ದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ, ನಾನೊಂದು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಬಿಡಿ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಯಾವ ತರ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಸೊ ಕೆನ್ ಎನಿವನ್ ಟೆಲ್ ಮೀ, ಸೊ ವಿಚ್ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ಯುವರ್ EKS is responsible to assign IP address to your pod?
CNI.
proxy, right?
Which one?
Proxy.
Proxy will route the traffic. That's it in your cluster. It will do. Responsible to route the traffic.
CNI using CNI strategy will be getting assigned the IP.
Yes, using the CNI only. See, whenever you are using EKS, AKS, by default CNI will comes. Okay. Suppose if you are not using a self-hosted Kubernetes cluster, in the Minikube also there is a DNB something is there. There is a network policy also there in the Minikube. Automatic it will assign. But in the self-hosted like worker node and the master node, so you need to be install CNI. There is some Calico, some plugins are there. Okay, to assign the IP address. Okay, using that only the pod will get an IP address. Okay.
Okay.
So in Nginx controller, when you are deploying the Nginx controller to your Kubernetes pod, so we will always reserve an IP address for the Nginx controller. Idn ಹೇಳಿದಿನಲ್ವಾ? So every time when you are deploying to the Nginx controller, you need to be reserved. Otherwise, if you are not able to, if you are not reserved that IP address, when you restart your Nginx controller, again it will come up with a new IP. Then entire your application will not work because it is redirecting to some other IP, but your Nginx controller is different IP. How it will redirect? So whenever user hit www.example.com, so in the DNS we will point to IP address of your Nginx. Okay, so request will come. Nginx will look for ingress resource. In ingress resource, what are the rules we return in the ingress resource? So it will check if it is a route, where should I route the traffic? We will specify the service thing. Howda?
Yes.
So if the IP address of the Nginx controller is different, where exactly it should route? So we'll get a 404 error. Okay, so that is the main reason we need to reserve your IP address. So whenever you spin up a Nginx controller, automatically ALB will create in your AWS account. Have you ever ನೋಡಿದಿರಾ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ?
Yes sir, create ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. And even domain route ಮಾಡಿದೆ.
So ಆ ತರ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Okay, so who are not done, you can connect with Rohit. Okay, he will
explain few people here. Okay.
Hmm.
We'll do that again.
So I will also explain, but I don't have access to list the ALBs in Azure. Okay, they only give the limited access because it's a client project, so they are not giving any admin permission to me. They only giving the UAT and dev only. Okay. If you are working in a client project, so production will be taken care by client itself. But for production also, we need to write pipelines, everything we need to take care. But they are not giving access, direct access to that production level. Okay. Understood?
Yes, sir.
ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ I covered almost all the questions you may get, but the question may be different, but answer is the same. Okay. So now I asked the same, right? So how we are going to, so some in half an hour interview, they are not going to ask entire all the concepts. So they will ask you what is the DevOps best practices. Okay. So to test whether you work or not, so they will ask you what are the errors you are getting while working in some tools. This type questions they will ask you. Okay. The scenario based means, suppose that's what, like if I want to route the traffic to only the particular user should go access our application, other user should get a maintenance page, how you are going to access? These questions they will ask you. So how you are going to reduce the cost? I can use S3 life cycle policy. ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದನ್ನೇ ಪ್ರಿಸೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳಿ.
Okay.
ಇನ್ನ ಏನಾದರೂ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಸಿ ನೀವು ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹಾಗೆ ಕೂರ್ಬೇಡಿ, ಹೇಳಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಗಿಯಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂತು. ಸಿ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅನದರ್ 1 week or max to max 12 days we are going to complete the Terraform and all the concepts. Now next you need to be prepared for live interviews. Okay, you may need to go for offline interviews as well. We don't know. Okay, nowadays they are asking to come down to the office for the interviews. Okay, ನೀವು ಈ ತರ ತಡಬಾಡಿಸಿದ್ರೆ how we are going to explain the offline interviews? That's why I'm telling you, make a practice of writing a Docker file, multi-stage build, Jenkins file, deployment, service, HPA, Terraform file. At least you should write the skeleton of your any files if they asked in the interview. Okay.
Okay.
ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಹೇಳೋ ಥರ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ನೀವು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಬರೀ ಅಂತಂದ್ರು ಕಣ್ಣು ಮುಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರೆಯೋ ಥರ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಈ ಏನೇನು ಟೂಲ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆಯೋಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ಇವಿಷ್ಟು. ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್?
ಸರ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಸರ್?
ಇನ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ವಿ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಿಡಿಕ್ಟ್, ಏನ್ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅವರು. ಓಕೆ, ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಇಫ್ ಯಾವ ಥರ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಫಾರ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಓಕೆ, ವೈಲ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯು ಶುಡ್ ನೋ ದಟ್ ಹೌ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಯು ಶುಡ್ ನೋ. ಸೊ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಇಫ್ ಐ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಎ ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಎ name or reverse a given word, you need to think like which logic I need to use. You should know that. Okay, maybe you can prepare for reversing a palindrome, factorial of a number, whether the given number is positive or negative. And in some interviews they may ask you to connect a server from your script and delete some files and come back and connect to other server. Okay, they may ask you this type of questions also, because whatever the Ansible will do, same thing we can do it in a bash scripting. Okay, but bash scripting is like some complex while writing the scripts. By using the Ansible we can do it. ಈಗ suppose I want to install Java in 100 servers. If I write 100 shell script, it will be very huge, right? So I need to write almost 1500 lines in one file. So it is very tedious task. If you are going with Ansible, it will be very easy to connect to our server, install within a 10 minutes. It connect to our 100 servers or install Java and come back. Okay. So anyway, in the market nowadays, no one is asking about the Ansible. Don't worry. So that's why we are using Terraform. Okay, while bringing up that EC2 instance, what are the packages we need, we can install and we can bring up. Okay, that we can do.
Okay.
Sandeep, you have sent right in that question. We have one. When you'll go with the Python, when you'll go with the Bash script. So that one we just
Python will be used for Lambda functions. Okay. You can tell them like when I work in some project, so there is a requirement came. So in our project, so we return for function app. Okay. Same thing. When I took a backup of AMI, so I return a Lambda function for that. But I don't know about entire concept, but at least I know the basic concepts. Okay, na. ಈಗ ಪೈಥಾನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ nowadays they are going to ask you the Java also. Okay, some companies, it is not all the companies. If you know, if ಎಲ್ಲ DevOps engineer ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಡೆವಲಪರ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಹೇಳಿ, ಹೌದಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಪೈಥಾನ್ಗೆ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಡೇಟಾ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ದೇರ್, ಸೊ ದೇ ನೋ ದ ಪೈಥಾನ್, ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ರಿಟರ್ನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಸ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ, ಟೆಲ್ ದೆಮ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಡಿ. So I know the basic concept because anyway I know bash scripting. So it's same like a syntax will be different. I will learn it. Another heli. Okay. Okay guys.
ಸರ್ ವರ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಸರ್? ಟೆರಾಫಾರ್ಮ್, ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ್ದು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು?
Kubernetes ಆದ್ರೆ 1.32.1 ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. ಈಗ ರೆಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾಟ್ ಉಬಂಟು ಆದ್ರೆ ಉಬಂಟು ಒಳಗೆ 24.0.1 ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ರೆಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾಟು ನಾನು ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ಬಿಡಿ, ಓಕೆನಾ? ಜೆಂಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಬಟ್ ಯಾರು ಲೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಷನ್ ಹೇಳಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಓಕೆನಾ?
ಓಕೆ.
ಸೊ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸೊ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ದ ಡೆವಲಪರ್ ಟು ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ದ ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆನ್ಸೀಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅದೊಂದು ತೋರಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ ರೀ. ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
ಹಾ, ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಬರಿತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆನ್ಸಿ ವರ್ಷನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
ಹೌದು,
ಓಕೆ.
ಇದು ಪೈಥಾನ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್, ಓಕೆನಾ? ಈಗ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ವರ್ಷನ್ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಡೆವಲಪರ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಲೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಷನ್ ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಕಂಟೈನರ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಮೈ ಕೋಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯಾಟಬಲ್ ವಿತ್ ದಟ್ ವರ್ಷನ್, it will work. What if after 5 years or 2-3 years, if the latest version it is not compatible with our source code, so your application may break, some functionality will not work. Correct? Because we are written, if you not specify this version, what it will do, it will download always the latest. Alva?
Yes sir, got it.
So that's why idunu heli, in the DevOps best practice alli we will ask the developer to mention the exact version of the dependencies. Okay.
Okay sir.
Okay. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ನನಗೆ ಮರ್ತು, ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನನಗೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡಿ, ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನು ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಈಗ ನಾನೇ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಮರ್ತಿರ್ತೀನಿ, ನಾನು ಯಾವ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಫೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಸಮ್ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟೀಸ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ ದೋಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್. ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಎ ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಯು.
ಓಕೆ,
ನೀವೇ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಯಾವುದು ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಂದೇ ಸರಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಸಾರ್ಟ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಮೇಕ್ ಎ ಸಮ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಈ ಥರ ನೀವೇ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಳಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅಂದರೆ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್. Kubernetes ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ?
ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಅದು ನನಗೂ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಯು ಇನ್ 2-3 days ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಓಕೆನಾ? ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ವಿತ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಓಕೆ.
ಇವಾಗ AWS ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದೆಲ್ಲ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ನಾವು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ? ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ನಾವು ತೋರ್ಸಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಚೆಕ್ ಇಟ್. ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಹೆಂಗ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕಾನ್ಫಿಗ್ ಮ್ಯಾಪ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಈ 2 ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಲಿ, ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಸರ್ ಅದು Route 53 ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು.
ಅದೇ ಇವರು ರೋಹಿತ್ ಅವ್ರ ಡೊಮೇನ್ ಇದೆ, ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಬಿಡಿ. ಸಿ ಟೈಪ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎ ಟೈಪ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ,
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
Okay, guys.